Ma'am, I did not call him a domestic terrorist. I said it appeared to be an incident of. When you perpetuate violence against a government because of ideological reasons and for reasons to resist and perpetuate violence, that is the definition of domestic terrorism. This individual who came with weapons and ammunition to stop a law enforcement operation of federal law enforcement officers committed an act of domestic terrorism. That's the facts.
Look, I'm not saying he's a domestic terrorist. It's just that he committed an act of domestic terrorism. It's like, I ain't saying she a gold digger, but, look at all this gold she's been digging. Now, some of you might be wondering what that word was that Kristi Noem just used. I believe it was ideological. You might be thinking, oh, she was trying to say ideological, but that's above her reading level. But no, actually, ideological means you're just following the object from the Greek word ogos, meaning erd, of the movie Idiocracy. So it actually makes total sense. So anyway, today's video is all about watching this genius that is Kristi Noem unfold. So please, let's continue.
Could you explain this?
Sir, I'm looking at a picture of an interior, looks like a bedroom.
Of an airplane?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
You're not familiar with that?
These photos are not accurate. If you're referring to the airplanes that the Department of Homeland Security has purchased and are purchasing, we're using them for long-range command and control aircraft that is dictated in statute by Congress for the Department of Homeland Security to have a plane.
Luxury jet with a bedroom in it?
Yeah, we used a 737. I've been on it once, but it is being used by other administration officials, and it is used for command and control flights for the department. The department has found that in purchasing our aircraft, that we will save the taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars.
Does it have a bedroom
in fact, we spent $1.442 billion on ICE deportation flights last year.
Does it have a bedroom in it?
I believe it's being refurbished and not having a bedroom in it. So it is being refurbished.
What kind of deportee justifies being flown out of the country in a luxury jet with a bedroom and accommodations like this?
I grew up in the 90s and I went to a megachurch for a large portion of my childhood. And I remember as a kid seeing other megachurch pastors justify their purchasing of like private jets because blah, 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 something about Jesus. And it just goes to show, I guess, that, time is a flat circle. But maybe I'm being overly partisan here. So let's hear from a Republican what his thoughts are on Kristi Noem.
And Mr. Chair, in my remaining time, I have a lot to go. But I want to submit this letter from the Office of the Inspector General that cites 10 different instances under Ms. Noem's leadership where they've been misled and not allowed to pursue investigations that they think are critically important. Does anybody have any idea how bad it has to be for the OIG in this agency to come out and do this publicly? That is stonewalling, that's a failure of leadership, and that is why I've called for your resignation. And if I don't get an answer to these questions, I don't want an applause. Please don't do that for me. If I don't get an answer to these questions, if I don't get an answer that you've had a month to respond to, and the remaining ones, as of today, I'll be informing leadership that I'm putting a hold on any en-bloc nominations until I get a response. And in 2 weeks, if I don't get a response, I'm going to deny quorum and markup in as many committees as I can until I get a response. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Nice. Mic drop. Now, I ain't saying she a dog killer, but well, this is actually, it's kind of awkward. Let's just roll the clip.
Secretary, I read your book last week. And honestly, some of the parts of it impressed me, but some of it distresses me. And I'll give you a good example of one that does. The passage where you talk about killing a dog that was 14 months old. I train dogs, all right? And you are a farmer. You should know better. You should know that if you're going out to a hunting lodge and you're putting pheasants out and you're putting dogs out, you don't take a puppy out there. A 14-month-old dog is basically a teenager in dog years. You decided to kill that dog because you had not invested the appropriate time in training, and then you have the audacity to go into a book and say it's a leadership lesson about tough choices. It's in your book. We could play it if we had time. at that same lunch hour, you killed a goat. And you killed the goat because you said it was behaving badly. You are a farmer. You don't castrate a goat. They behave badly. You should have probably done that before. But my point is, those are bad decisions made in the heat of the moment, not unlike what happened up in Minneapolis. I expect we're an exceptional nation. And one of the reasons we're exceptional is we expect exceptional leadership. And you've demonstrated anything but that in the time that I've seen you responding to the emergency in North Carolina and across the Southeast, and acknowledging when mistakes are made and speaking too soon for the expedient of social media or whatever it is.
Hey, all I'm saying is, you're not the best at making rational decisions, as evidenced by your history of making irrational decisions where you often kill animals. Now, I'm not going to go into how someone like Kristi Noem's view of animals, pet or farm alike, being somehow expendable and therefore easy to kill might, play into her view of undocumented immigrants, which she seems to view as subhuman and therefore expendable. Nor am I going to go into the long chain of events that led to such a person being in charge of homeland security. But I do think that if you have a view of other human beings that is lesser than being a human being, then you're eventually going to end up sanctioning things like this.
How does taking a father from a child dying of cancer qualify? Where would that be? Is that a violent crime?
I don't know what you're speaking or referencing
I'll tell you exactly
to.
what I'm speaking of. Ruben Torres, 2 weeks ago, buried his daughter Ophelia. When he was arrested at the Home Depot in Norridge, Illinois, he said to those who, your agents, please let me go home. My daughter is dying of cancer. I would like to be with her in her last days of her life. They said no. They arrested him and deported him for 2 weeks. Finally, he returned for a court hearing. His daughter lived to see that hearing where the court said he was treated unfairly by your agency, and she died 3 days later. I was at her memorial service. Is that really necessary? Was he a violent criminal?
Sir, we enforce the law. The laws that are passed by this body and signed into statute on the process for individuals that are in this country illegally, that have final removal orders, and the process given in immigration law. We continue to follow that, and if you don't like the law, I would suggest you change the law. But that is what we do every single day, is go out there.
We tried to change it with comprehensive immigration reform, and it was stopped by the Republican House of Representatives.
Oh, hey, what do you know? Zero remorse from Kristi Noem. Who could have predicted that? She didn't even do the whole, well, that's unfortunate that happened, but, rules are rules. No, she was just like, this is the law, and if you don't like it, you can change it. Oh, what's that? You tried to change it? Okay, well, we're not going to let you change it. There is a book called The Racist Fantasy by Todd McGowan that I'm bringing up right now for absolutely no reason. But in it, McGowan talks about how there's this idea that the undocumented or illegal immigrant is only bad insofar as they are undocumented or illegal, but actually the reverse may be true. Them being undocumented or illegal is actually incredibly important for the rise of fascism, because it gives people who are struggling economically a figure to place the blame on, and therefore take the attention away from the fact that we are all being robbed blind every day by massive corporations and billionaires and our techno-feudal lords. So it's just, something to think about when they're talking about how, we want them to be, no, they don't. Them being illegal is incredibly important. It is part of their narrative. They love the fact that these individuals can be othered so successfully because it allows them to do whatever they want in the meantime, like start an unnecessary war, or give tax cuts to the rich, or start an unnecessary war, and then that same day start deleting Epstein files. It all works very well for them because they're lying. And also, Kristi Noem, was it the undocumented immigrants that started deleting all of the Epstein files? You dog killing ghoul? No, I don't think it was. But that, of course, doesn't matter, because what matters is maintaining some sense of hegemony and making sure that their own voters never look up, so long as they keep looking down at the people who are suffering economically worse than they are. So it's all sort of part of a, what's it called? Lie? It's a lie. Okay. Great. Man, she's great, isn't she? Wow. What a genius. And I'm very thankful for her for ushering in this new era of idiocracy, or Armageddon, whatever it is. All right. I'll see you next time, folks, and F ICE.